Welcome everybody to episode 5 of The Humble Onion.
Chris,
Today,
can you do a drinking woo thing for the pre-intro thing that we do?
what do you want me to do?
I don't know, drink and say woo,
Woo! Wow, wee! It's episode 5. Ooh, very good. Yep, you know how we go. Guys, today we're going to be making some prawn pasta. This dish is kind of a massive hybrid sort of a dish. It reflects very clearly where I live and what I'm exposed to constantly, which is Italian food and Asian food, and I love it all so dearly, so we're going to put it all together. We're going to roll some pasta. I'm going to show you how we do that, and we'll talk a little bit about pasta dough. We're going to cook off a delicious sofrito, and we're going to work with some really tasty prawns. All of it's going to be finished with my favorite laugenmar and some butter. It's going to be really, really nice. Is that okay? Is that a good intro?
yeah.
Cut! So we're going to roll our pasta. I have this very nifty pasta roller. They're very accessible, very easy to find. I reckon you pick up a second-hand one very, very easily, no matter where you are. That's a little sneezy dog in the background, by the way. So we're going to roll out our pasta. I use semolina or Midlands, which is a stage of the flour sifting process. I'm very lucky because on my street where I live is a baker that mills their own flour. So I get my flour from them. You can use just normal flour as well. So on this very size-appropriate bench, this giant mozzarella, we're going to roll this out, okay? So we're going to start by laminating our pasta. Now, what that means is we're going to put layers inside here as we roll. They're going to be great for the texture, great for the mouthfeel when we're eating it. It's going to make sure that the pasta holds really well in the water, that we can cook it a long way, but it's not going to lose integrity, shall we say, as we're cooking it, okay? So we'll start it with our rolling pin before, just to ease the stress on our machine. The only thing holding these together is some very basic springs. Awesome. So we have our shape. Your pasta roller might start low and go high, or start high and go low, but either way, it's still just adjusting the thickness, you know? All right, so we'll put this through a couple times. We're going to laminate it again. Depending on how much you've kneaded your dough, is going to depend how many times you have to laminate. The dough is going to tell you once it's shiny, silky, really smooth. That's how we know that our pasta dough has been worked enough. For me, it's much like a delicious textured nevioma. So we're going to put this through again. So once we start to see this springing back here, it's starting to look really, really nice. I think one more time. It's also really good with the rolling pin is that we can be shaping it. We want to fill as square as we can to the width of our pasta roller. So we're going to put this through the machine. This looks perfect, okay? So this is coming back really well. That's what we want. So now we're going to start making it thinner. And this is all we do to roll our own pasta. It's so simple. Machines are really easy to get your hands on. Even brand new, they're under $100. I know that for sure. But definitely secondhand, you're going to find them. For these noodles today, I'm not going to make this super, super thin because I want them to stay quite chewy. You can see how little extra flour we need to add. That's what's really good about using the coarse flour, either from the Midlands, from the semolina, whatever you choose to use, is that it's not actually going to dry it out like the way that plain flour would. It actually gets to the point where it's not feeding into the machine very well. If you've made the top too dry, there's no friction. I'm going to take this to the third thinnest on my machine. Awesome. So this is looking really, really good. I'll put this through once more on the same thickness. As it shrinks, obviously the thickness is going up as well. So we're just going to put it through one more time on the same thickness. From here, we can make anything from this pasta. So we could cut these out now and make tortellinis or raviolis and little fill pastas. We can make noodles. We'll cut this down to spaghetti, fettuccine, pappardelle. It's completely up to you. Once you've got it to this stage, it's a blank slate. So we're going to flour that really well so that now all we want to make sure is that it doesn't stick to itself from here on, you know what I mean? So this is the only way that it can stuff up from here on out. And that's our beautiful pasta. We're going to begin by cutting some things up. What we're building here is really similar to XO sauce. So XO, you would start with, say, like a Hunan bacon or ham. We're going to use guanciale. I make my own guanciale. from salting down jowl, which is down there. It's not the cheeks, it's the jowls, okay? So I'm gonna start by cutting this up. Really, really good fat here. So we're actually gonna melt most of this down as the beginning of our pasta, as the beginning of our sofrito. So all we wanna do is just dice this up nice and small. This is like the equivalent of laundry day underwear, this knife. Every chef has one. So here we have our minced guanciale. Lovely. We're going to slice up all our vegetables now and get them ready for our pasta. We're going to go through loads of garlic. This is garlic that we get from my good friend Rick down in Manjimup. His farm is called Warren Grange. It's absolutely delicious. We're also going to slice up some feferone, which are pickled Italian chilies. We're going to have some sliced shallots. These could be onions, spring onions, whatever you've got is totally fine. I'm just going to add them. I need a drink. So, now that we've processed all of our mise en place, we would call it. How should I say it properly?
Mise en place, very good.
There you go. We're going to peel our prawns now, okay? I am so lucky that I live in Western Australia. These are local prawns. These are West Australian. They're absolutely fantastic. And where I live in my city, I'm also very lucky that I can just walk around the corner to Atlantic Seafood and pick these up. It's just awesome. So every bit of this is going to be used in some form. The heads and the flesh we're going to be using today, obviously in our pasta. The shells I'll still keep because we can make a broth later that's going to be absolutely fantastic. So a couple of these big boys. I mean, if you had 2 of these per person, it's pretty awesome. I'd much rather have 2 of these giant guys than 6 little ones. So anyway, let's peel them up. Take them down this far. I'm going to leave the tail on because I love to eat the tail. The heads we're going to keep because all of that delicious mustard is going to go into our pasta. And that's what I mean about building this kind of similar to an XO sauce, because you would be adding dried seafood traditionally for XO. But we're going to bring a really deep fishy seafood flavor with the prawn head. Down the back, we're going to open those up and then just get underneath this here and pull it out the back, okay? And so once we know we've got that out, that's great. Just rip the shoot out because it's too much of a pain in the ass to try to do it a pretty way on camera. Beautiful. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to cut some noodles. I need to grab my noodle. If you fold them nice and square, theoretically when you trim them, it shouldn't be too bad. So if you weren't making your own noodles for this, it's totally fine. This is just where you would be dropping in your dried noodles for the pasta. You can still make the same dish. We're making ours because we're cool. We'll trim these up. We're just going to make a thick wide noodle. I think will be really tasty for this kind of pasta. So I'm going to cut this one into 3, I reckon. And we're going to leave the noodles really long. Because that's the best thing about making your own pasta. You can do whatever you want. Do whatever you like. Okay, perfect. I'm just going to make sure there is a good amount of flour between them. I can show you just a different shape of noodles if you want. Like we can do a thinner one. And we're just going to unravel them all. And that's another shape we can be doing as well. So whatever floats your goat, it's really up to you. This is the fun thing about making our own products, is that we get to decide how we want to eat them. Now I've got to cook half and half pasta. I don't know why I did that. More Nebbiolo. What we're going to do now is actually start cooking the thing. We're using the big pan today. That's cute. This is just like everyone else has trash equipment at home, like terrible knives and big rubbish pans. We're going to start with our bacon. That's going to go in the pan first. We're going to add a little bit of oil to this because as it comes up, it's going to render more of the fat out. We also want to make a really nice flavored oil. So that's going to be from both the oil that we're starting with and the pork fat. So this will just take a few minutes. I'm actually also going to add some Szechuan peppercorns. I use green. There are some, you can see in here, right? There are some black ones. You want to find the green because they're much more fragrant. So if they go in there at the beginning, that's going to be really nice. So we're rendering this fat as well as toasting our Szechuan, as well as infusing all that flavor into the oil. So this is a real flavor part of what we're doing. See the quantity here that we've got down the bottom, because up here is just all getting nice and crispy. Oh, delicious. Here we have our crispy bacon bits, our guanciale, which is going to go back into our pasta later on. The fat out of our bacon is too hot to start all this garlic, okay? So we're going to let this fat cool down ever so slightly. Okay. We're going to start our pan with our bacon fat. We'll go in first with our garlic. So you hear no action. That's really positive, okay? Because I don't want to start getting any color on this garlic whatsoever. All I want to do is just make it aromatic and super tasty. Now, what I tend to do to make sure that the garlic stays nice and light and doesn't start to caramelize and get too hot, I just add a little bit of water back to it. That's going to bring the temperature right down and make sure that that garlic stays really nice and sweet. I'm now going to add a little bit of sugar, which is going to start to draw more moisture out of our garlic. We're going to go in with our prawn heads. Whoop, that's right. Again, this is getting too hot. So we're starting to cook our prawn heads in this beautiful bacon fat, garlic infused, absolutely delicious. This is very much going by smell, okay? Once you can smell that garlic starting to get too hot, just chuck in some more water. It's absolutely fine. Next, I'll go with my shallots and my pepperoni and my pickled chilies. Absolutely delicious. We'll keep adding a bit of water to keep that temperature down. You can really smell the vinegar coming off the chilies, which is fantastic. MSG makes everything better, so you should keep it at home and add it to things. I'm adding some chicken powder because it's just going to add more depth. So we'll start cooking our pasta. We'll go back in with our crispy bacon bits. I'm also going to throw in a big whack of my laugama. This one has fermented black beans, which I really enjoy for this kind of dish. If you don't have the fermented black bean, add maybe a little bit of miso. You really want that depth that something fermented is going to bring to this. I'm also going to add a big amount of butter. A little bit of lemon zest, because we need it to be balanced. Now we can turn this up. We've got a lot of fat in there. These noodles are going to cook really quickly because they're super fresh. This just smells absolutely fantastic. So delicious. Awesome. I'm going to go in with these noodles straight into the pan. Noodles are looking very, very good. We're going to go on with our prawns. So I add the prawns at the end because I just want them to softly cook through just with the heat from the pasta. I don't want to be sealing them off in the beginning. I don't want them to get caramelized. And we're going to remove the prawn heads so that they cool slightly, and I'm just going to squeeze them all into that pasta. Man, that tastes so fantastic. I'll pull this other pasta out because I can cook two pastas at the same time. Just remembered, I'm a semi-professional chef. So I'm just going to split the sauce in half between these two. Oh, I'm not sure how you're going to do this in edit, but now I'm going to put cheese in this, and you're like, what, cheese? But yes, more MSG. Cheese is also going to help that texture. It's going to bring it all together. When we come to plate up our pasta, our noodles, beautiful big prawns in there. So here we have our two pastas that we've made here. We've got the laugama butter, which you can see pooling, insanely tasty. We've flavored that with our pork. We've gone in with all that beautiful organic garlic as well. So the flavor of that fat is just absolutely phenomenal. And our flatter, wider noodles as well. It's just going to be a difference in the texture as you're eating it. Our awesome Shark Bay tiger prawns. They just look fantastic, and you know that they're going to be beautifully juicy and crunchy when you bite into them. It's a phenomenal texture. Well, all that's left to do is to eat these two pastas that we've made here, guys. I'm going to start with a nice big piece of prawn because that's just killer. That's super tasty. Man, that's absolutely wonderful. The garlic, the little crunches of the Szechuan peppercorns. Let's try with the big wide noodle pasta just in case. Very different. Super tasty. Thank you so much. Episode 5. I'm here eating these just big ass shrimps. I can't even see because apparently the reflection of my glasses doesn't work. So.
Do the YouTube thing. Like and subscribe. Blah, blah, blah.
The YouTube thing. Like and subscribe. Comment in the link below or whatever they say. Do the stuff. Where is it on the page? Here you go. Go to thehumbleonion.com. Actually, don't. It's not a site. But go to the social media. Just make some food at home and go buy really good produce and follow my recipes. We'll see you next week. I really don't know why I cut the noodles in two different things. Send it to Clown! All right,